The bedroom door creaked open at 2 a.m., and my heart stopped. I was sprawled on the floor of my best friend Jake's room, the hum of a Virginia summer night seeping through the cracked window, when a shadow slipped inside. "Don't scream," a low voice whispered, and my breath caught as I recognized Ethan, Jake's older brother, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. I'd known Jake since we were kids, inseparable through scraped knees and late-night gaming marathons in this very room. His family's split-level house in Fairfax was my second home. Pizza boxes, old vinyl records, and the faint smell of cedar from their backyard. But Ethan, he was the ghost in the house, always away at college or working late at some bar downtown. I hadn't seen him in years. Not since he was the lanky teenager who'd ruffle my hair and call me kid before disappearing. Now, at 23, he was different, sharper, broader, with a jawline that caught the light and a quiet intensity that made my stomach twist. I propped myself up on my elbows, the sleeping bag rustling beneath me. "Ethan, what the hell?" I hissed, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't wake Jake, who was snoring softly on the bed. Ethan crouched beside me, close enough that I could smell the faint leather of his jacket. His finger pressed to his lips, and his gaze darted to the door like he was expecting someone to barge in. "I need to talk to you, Caleb," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But not here. Not now." His eyes locked onto mine, and there was something raw in them, fear. Maybe. Or something heavier. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but the weight of his stare pinned me in place. All I could do was nod. We'd been close once, Ethan and I, back when he was still around. He was the one who taught me how to throw a spiral with a football, who snuck me my first sip of beer at 15 during a 4th of July barbecue. But then he left for college, and the text stopped. The Ethan I knew had faded into rumors, Jake's offhand comments about his brother figuring himself out or getting into trouble. I never pressed for details. Maybe I should have. He stood, offering me his hand. My fingers brushed his, warm and calloused, and a jolt ran through me. I followed him out of the room, tiptoeing past Jake's oblivious snores, down the dark hallway, and out the back door into the humid night. The backyard was a tangle of shadows, the cedar trees swaying in the breeze. Ethan led me to the old treehouse, a rickety structure we used to pretend was a pirate ship. Now it felt like a secret bunker. Inside, a single battery-powered lantern cast a dim glow. Ethan sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, his knees brushing mine as I settled across from him. "I'm sorry for the cloak and dagger shit," he said, running a hand through his dark hair. "I didn't know how else to do this." "Do what?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. My heart was still racing from the way he'd snuck in, from the way he was looking at me now like I was the only person in the world who mattered. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I'm in trouble, Caleb, and I need you to hear me out before you judge me." His voice cracked, just for a second, and I saw the boy I used to know, the one who'd laugh too loud and carry me on his shoulders. But there was something else now, something that made my chest ache. Ethan told me he'd been kicked out of his apartment. He'd been working at a dive bar in D.C., pouring drinks and dodging questions about his life. He'd always been private, but this was different. He'd been hiding something, even from Jake. "I'm gay," he said finally, the words spilling out like they'd been trapped for years. "And I fucked up. I got involved with the wrong guy, and now I owe some people money. Bad people. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Ethan, the guy who'd always seemed untouchable, was sitting here, vulnerable, his hands trembling slightly as he spoke. I wanted to reach out, to tell him it was okay, but my throat felt tight. I'd never told anyone, not even Jake, that I'd been questioning things about myself. 2. Late nights scrolling through forums, wondering why my heart raced when I saw certain guys at school. Ethan's confession felt like a mirror, and I wasn't ready to look into it. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely steady. Why not Jake? Because Jake doesn't get it, Ethan said, his eyes searching mine. He's my brother, but he's straight. He doesn't know what it's like to hide who you are. I saw it in you, Caleb. Last summer, at the lake. The way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't watching. My face burned. I remembered that day, Ethan in swim trunks, laughing as he dove into the water, the sun catching every line of his body. I'd looked away fast, but maybe not fast enough. I don't know what you're talking about. I lied, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan's hand grazed mine, and I froze. You don't have to say it, he said softly. But I know. And I'm scared. Caleb, I need someone I can trust. The air between us felt electric, like a storm about to break. I wanted to pull away, to run back to the safety of Jake's room. But I couldn't. Not when Ethan was looking at me like that, like I was his lifeline. What do you need me to do? I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. Just stay, he said. For now, just stay. And so I did. We sat there in the treehouse, the world outside fading away, our knees touching, our secrets spilling into the space between us. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew I couldn't walk away. Not from him. The next morning, the world felt different. Sunlight streamed through Jake's bedroom window, painting stripes across the hardwood floor. But my mind was still in the treehouse, replaying Ethan's words, his touch, the way his eyes held mine. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every creak of the house had me on edge, half expecting Ethan to slip back in or someone else to come looking for him. Jake stirred, yawning as he rolled out of bed. Dude, you look like shit, he said, tossing a pillow at me. What? Did you stay up all night gaming without me? I forced a laugh, muttering something about a bad dream, but my heart wasn't in it. Ethan was gone by the time I'd crept back into the house at dawn, leaving only a folded note under my sleeping bag. Meet me at the bar tonight. 10 p.m. Don't tell Jake. I spent the day on autopilot, helping Jake mow the lawn, pretending everything was normal. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face, heard the tremor in his voice when he said he was scared. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew I had to go. For him. The bar was a dimly lit hole in the wall called the Rusty Anchor, tucked in a grimy corner of D.C. The air smelled of stale beer and cigarette smoke, and the neon sign buzzed like a dying insect. I felt out of place in my hoodie and sneakers, surrounded by leather jackets and hard stares. Ethan was behind the bar, pouring a drink, his movements sharp but his eyes distant. When he saw me, his face softened for a split second before hardening again. You came, he said, sliding a glass of water my way. I wasn't sure you would. I said I'd be here. I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. The bar was half empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. Ethan leaned across the counter, his voice low. There's a guy who comes here. Marcus. He's connected. I owe him money from a deal that went south. He's been leaving messages, following me. I need you to help me get something to him, something that'll square us. I frowned, my stomach twisting. What? Like drugs? Ethan. I'm not. No drugs. He cut me off, his eyes fierce. It's a flash drive. Information. That's all you need to know. He slid a small black drive across the counter, his fingers brushing mine again. That same jolt ran through me, but this time it was mixed with fear. Take it to a guy named Leo at the diner on 14th Street tomorrow. He'll know what to do. I wanted to say no, to tell him this was crazy, but the desperation in his voice stopped me. Why me? I asked again, quieter this time. Because you're the only one I trust, he said, and the words hit me like a punch. Before I could respond, a man in a black jacket walked in, his eyes locking onto Ethan. Ethan tensed, his hand slipping under the counter like he was reaching for something. Go, he whispered. Now. I stuffed the drive in my pocket and slipped out the back, my heart pounding. The night air was cool, but I was sweating as I jogged to the metro. I didn't know what I was carrying, but I knew it was dangerous. And yet, all I could think about was Ethan's voice, his touch, the way he'd looked at me like I was his only hope. The next day, I found the diner, a greasy spoon with flickering fluorescent lights. Leo was a wiry guy with a scar across his eyebrow, sitting in a corner booth. He barely looked at me as I slid the drive across the table. Tell Ethan we're even, he said, his voice flat. I nodded, my hands shaking as I left. I thought it was over. I thought I'd done what Ethan needed. But when I got back to Jake's that night, Ethan was waiting in the driveway, his face pale. They're not done with me, he said, his voice breaking. Marcus knows I sent you. He's pissed. I grabbed his arm, pulling him into the shadows of the garage. Then let's go to the cops, I said, my voice urgent. This is too big. Ethan. He shook his head, his eyes haunted. You don't get it, Caleb. These people don't play by rules. If I run, they'll come for Jake. For you. He stepped closer, his hand cupping my face. And for a moment, the world stopped. I never meant to drag you into this, he whispered. But I'm glad you're here. Before I could think, his lips were on mine, soft and desperate, like he was pouring everything he couldn't say into that kiss. I kissed him back, my hands gripping his jacket, the fear and adrenaline melting into something else, something I'd been running from my whole life. When we pulled apart, I was trembling, but not from fear. We'll figure this out, I said, my voice firm. Together. The next week was a blur of stolen moments and mounting dread. Ethan and I met in separate late-night drives, whispered conversations in the treehouse, his hand finding mine in the dark. Every touch felt like a rebellion against the world, against the fear that hung over us. But Marcus was a shadow we couldn't shake. Ethan's phone buzzed with cryptic texts, and I caught him checking over his shoulder more than once. I told Jake I was helping Ethan with work stuff, which wasn't entirely a lie. Jake didn't ask questions, she trusted me. Trusted Ethan. That trust made my chest ache. Because I was keeping so much from him. But I couldn't stop. Not when Ethan looked at me like I was the only thing keeping him grounded. One night, Ethan showed up at my apartment. His face bruised and his jacket torn. "They found me," he said, his voice hoarse. "Marcus's guys. They want more than the drive." I pulled him inside, locking the door, my heart racing. He sank onto my couch, his head in his hands. "I thought I could outrun this," he said. "I thought I could protect you." I knelt in front of him, my hands on his knees. "You don't have to do this alone," I said. "I'm in this with you." He looked up, his eyes glistening, and pulled me into his arms. We stayed like that for a long time, the world outside fading away. But the world wouldn't let us hide. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. "Tell Ethan to meet us at the warehouse on 9th. Midnight. Bring the kid." My blood ran cold. They knew about me. Ethan wanted to go alone, but I refused. "If they want me there, I'm there," I said, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my chest. He tried to argue, but I kissed him, hard, silencing his protests. "We do this together, or not at all." The warehouse was a hulking, rusted shell, the kind of place where secrets went to die. Marcus was waiting, flanked by two men who looked like they'd stepped out of a crime movie. He was younger than I'd expected, with a cold smile that made my skin crawl. "You've got balls, Ethan," he said, his eyes flicking to me. "Bringing your boyfriend." Ethan stepped in front of me, his jaw tight. "Leave him out of this," he said. "I'll get you what you want. Just tell me what it is." Marcus laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. "You think this is about money now? You embarrassed me, Ethan. You sent this kid to do your dirty work." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I want you to hurt." Everything happened fast. One of Marcus's guys lunged at Ethan, and I acted on instinct, shoving Ethan out of the way. The guy's fist caught my shoulder, pain exploding down my arm. But Ethan was already moving, tackling the man to the ground. The second guy came for me, but I ducked, adrenaline pumping. I wasn't a fighter, but I wasn't going to let them touch Ethan. It was chaos, grunts, shouts, the sound of fists hitting flesh. Ethan was a blur, his movements fierce and desperate. I managed to grab a metal pipe from the floor, swinging it at the second guy's knees. He went down, cursing, and Ethan pulled me toward the exit. "Run," he shouted. We sprinted into the night, the warehouse fading behind us. My shoulder throbbed, but Ethan's hand in mine kept me moving. We didn't stop until we reached a gas station, its fluorescent lights harsh against the darkness. Ethan pulled me into a hug, his breath ragged. "You're insane," he said, half laughing, half crying. "You saved my life." "You saved mine," I said, my voice muffled against his shoulder. We stood there, holding each other, the world finally quiet. The next day, Ethan went to the police. He told them everything, Marcus. The debts, the threats. It was risky, but it was the only way out. The cops raided the warehouse, and Marcus was arrested. Ethan's name stayed out of it, thanks to a deal his lawyer worked out. For the first time in weeks, we could breathe. We sat in the treehouse one last time before Ethan moved to a new city. A fresh start. I'm not running away, he said. His hand tangled in mine. I'm starting over. And I want you with me. Caleb. When you're ready. I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I'd follow him anywhere. We'd face the darkness together and come out stronger. As the stars blinked above us, I leaned in and kissed him, soft and sure. The world didn't feel so heavy anymore. Our love wasn't a secret anymore. It was a promise one we'd keep, no matter what came next.